Hey everyone, welcome to Reality TV News Update, the place where we bring you the latest updates, fun moments, and behind-the-scenes stories you won't want to miss. Survivor Season 49 contestant Jawan Pitts has opened up about the fact that he has been having therapy months after filming on the show finished. According to the former castaway, who was eliminated during the 10th episode of the season, he had been receiving treatment as he attempts to fully understand what happened on the show when it comes to so many black players being eliminated consecutively. Following her appearance in Survivor, Jawan Pitts discusses her need for therapy. Pitts became the fourth black player to be eliminated in a row when he was voted out of the series and became the latest jury member in episode 10 of the season. Fellow players Nate Moore, Alex Moore, and Michelle MC Chukwujekwu were all voted out in the 3 previous episodes. This continues a trend that many viewers have spotted in previous seasons of Survivor, where black players often appear to be eliminated from the show earlier. Speaking in an interview with the New York Post, Pitts explained that it was something that the players on Season 49 were aware of. First off, it was a topic of discussion out there, Pitts revealed. Christina Mills and I had a back and forth about it. He continued, I think as a viewer, it's hard to watch. I was a member of the community as well when it occurred on Season 42, so I definitely felt it. However, I believe it was extremely difficult to pin it during the game, and even experiencing it, I'm going to therapy to truly kind of process. I'm like, why? Why was that the case? Pitts is unsure of the circumstances surrounding the eliminations. Despite questioning why it happened, Pitts has explained that he doesn't think there's any conscious intent behind the eliminations. He stated, I think the game was so fluid and there were so many advantages and variables, so I think that's how I feel personally. Pitts went on to admit that he had voted for 2 of the 3 contestants mentioned earlier, which contributed to the players' elimination. He said, I just want to step back and look at the optics of the jury and just hold space for that for a moment. And maybe anybody that's watching it and feeling uncomfortable, I want their feelings to feel validated. And also, more specifically with MC, I want to hold space for her hurt feelings, but I also want to use this time to share some insight into why I made those decisions. My family was at the forefront of every decision I made out there, so every decision I made moving forward, I put that to that scale. For millions of fans, Survivor is a thrilling social experiment filled with blindsides, epic challenges, and million-dollar dreams. But behind the dramatic edits and heroic music cues lies a reality far more complex and often far more painful than what makes it to television. One former Survivor contestant is now pulling back the curtain on that reality, revealing that his time on the show ultimately led him to seek therapy after his torch was snuffed. In a candid post-show interview, the contestant, who made a deep run in his season and was known for his strategic mind and emotional vulnerability, admitted that leaving the island was only the beginning of a difficult personal journey. While fans watched him process betrayal and loss in confessionals, the emotional toll followed him long after the cameras stopped rolling. He said, I thought the hardest part would be getting voted out, but the hardest part was going home and realizing I wasn't okay. The mental cost of the game. Life on Survivor is intentionally designed to break players down. Contestants are deprived of food, sleep, comfort, privacy, and connection to the outside world. They're encouraged to lie, manipulate, and betray others, all while being watched by millions. While many contestants enter the game believing they're mentally prepared, few truly understand the psychological consequences until it's over. The former castaway explained that while he expected hunger and exhaustion, he didn't anticipate how deeply the social dynamics would affect him. He said, you're constantly questioning yourself. Every conversation feels like a test. Every smile might be fake. Over time, that messes with your sense of trust, not just in other people, but in yourself. By the time he was voted out, he described feeling emotionally hollow. The adrenaline that had carried him through weeks of competition vanished almost instantly, replaced with confusion and shame. The whiplash of returning home. One of the most jarring experiences for many Survivor players is the abrupt transition back to normal life. After weeks of hyper-survival mode, contestants are suddenly expected to reintegrate into society as if nothing happened. He said, you go from fighting for rice and fire to standing in a grocery store aisle surrounded by choices. It sounds ridiculous, but it's overwhelming. Friends and family were eager to celebrate his return, but he struggled to articulate what he was feeling. Even though his loved ones praised his bravery and strategic gameplay, he secretly recalled times when he felt like he had failed as a person and in the game. He said, "I couldn't stop thinking about the people I hurt. Even though it was a game, it didn't feel like one anymore." Watching himself on television. If leaving the island was painful, watching the season air was another emotional hurdle entirely. Seeing edited versions of conversations, confessionals taken out of context, and online reactions from fans proved to be deeply triggering. He said, "It felt like losing control of my own story. People thought they knew who I was based on 60-minute episodes." Social media amplified those feelings. While some fans praised his gameplay, others criticized his decisions, labeled him untrustworthy, or attacked his character. He admitted that reading comments became a daily habit, one that worsened his anxiety. He said, "I was already questioning myself, and then I had thousands of strangers doing it too." The critical moment. The contestant revealed that the turning point came several weeks after the finale aired. Despite trying to power through his emotions, he began experiencing panic attacks, insomnia, and a constant sense of dread. "I'd wake up replaying tribal councils in my head. I couldn't focus. I couldn't unwind. I didn't feel like who I was." At first, he resisted the idea of therapy, telling himself that other players had gone through the same thing and survived without help. But eventually, he realized minimizing his pain wasn't helping. He kept telling himself, "It's just a TV show." However, trauma is unaffected by reality or television. Seeking professional help. He finally went to therapy after receiving encouragement from a former cast member, a decision he now describes as life-altering. Working with a mental health professional helped him unpack the emotional layers of his experience, the loss of control, the public scrutiny, and the identity confusion that followed his exit. He said, "Therapy helped me separate the game from who I actually am. I had to relearn that making ruthless moves didn't make me a bad person." He also learned that his reactions were normal. According to mental health experts, reality television participants often experience symptoms similar to post-traumatic stress, especially after high-pressure competition shows like Survivor. He stated, "There is a crash after the constant stimulation. Your nervous system doesn't know how to calm down." A broader conversation in reality TV. More and more former reality TV stars have begun to openly discuss their post-filming mental health issues. From Survivor to Big Brother to The Challenge, former contestants are pushing networks to provide better post-show psychological support. The former castaway believes these conversations are long overdue. He said, "You sign a contract, but you don't sign away your mental health. There needs to be more preparation for what comes after." He lauded the show's evolution over time, but he also emphasized the importance of aftercare alongside casting and production. Healing and moving forward. The contestant claims to be in a much better place today. Therapy has helped him rebuild confidence, process guilt, and develop healthier coping mechanisms. He's learned to engage with fans on his own terms and step away from social media when needed. He said, "I don't regret playing. However, I regret believing I had to handle everything on my own." He hopes that by sharing his story, future contestants and fans will understand that reality TV participants are still human beings navigating very real emotions. If you're struggling after something intense, that doesn't make you weak. It means you're listening to yourself. As for advice to those dreaming of competing on Survivor, he encourages preparation beyond physical training and strategy. Work on your mental health before you go, and make a promise to yourself that if you ever need assistance again, while Survivor will always be about outwitting, outplaying, and outlasting, stories like his remind audiences that the real test often begins once the torches go out and the cameras stop rolling.
Survivor has captivated audiences with tales of endurance, deception, and triumph against the odds. From blindsides, immunity idols, and dramatic tribal councils, viewers frequently marvel at how contestants endure hunger, exhaustion, and constant paranoia in order to win $1 million. But for one former Survivor contestant, the most difficult part of the journey didn't happen on the island. It came after his torch was extinguished. In a deeply personal post-show conversation, the former castaway revealed that following his departure from the game, he found himself struggling in ways he never anticipated. The emotional fallout was so intense that he ultimately sought therapy to help process the experience, a decision he now describes as necessary for his healing. "I trained my body for the show," he admitted. "However, I didn't prepare my mind for what would occur after it was all over." The pressure cooker of the island. From the moment contestants hit the beach, Survivor is designed to strip away comfort and stability. Players are cut off from their families, deprived of food, and forced to live in constant uncertainty. Every conversation is layered with strategy. Every alliance feels temporary. Even the most self-assured personalities can be weakened over time by a lack of trust and security. The contestant explained that during filming, he often suppressed his emotions to stay focused on the game. "You don't have the luxury of stopping to feel," he said. "If you do, you fall behind." That survival mindset helped him advance, but it came at a cost. By the time he was voted out, he was running on adrenaline alone. Once that adrenaline disappeared, the emotions he had buried began to surface. The moment everything stopped. When his name was read at Tribal Council, the experience felt surreal. One minute he was scrambling to save his game, and the next he was walking away from the firelight, knowing his journey had ended. "You don't get closure out there," he said. "You just leave." In the days immediately following his exit, he expected relief. Instead, he felt disoriented. Without strategy to plan or alliances to manage, he struggled to understand who he was outside the game. He explained, "It's like your identity gets wrapped up in being a player. When that's gone, there's this emptiness." Getting back into the real world. The transition back to normal life proved more difficult than anticipated. While friends and family were eager to hear stories and celebrate his experience, he found himself withdrawing. Simple decisions felt overwhelming, crowded places triggered anxiety, sleeping patterns changed. On the island, everything is about survival. Back home, the world doesn't slow down to let you catch up. He also wrestled with guilt, both about the people he betrayed in the game and the version of himself he presented to the world. While he knew Survivor was a competition, the emotional bonds he formed felt real, and breaking them left lingering shame. "I kept asking myself if that's who I really was," he said. Seeing himself through the edit. When the season began airing, the experience took on a new layer of complexity. Watching edited episodes forced him to relive moments he had hoped to leave behind. The audience saw him as defined by confessions recorded at a time of extreme exhaustion or rage. "It's strange watching yourself become a character," he said. "You remember the full story, but viewers only see pieces." Social media intensified the emotional strain. Praise and criticism poured in, sometimes within the same post. While he appreciated supportive fans, the negative comments lingered far longer. "I told myself not to read them," he admitted, "but curiosity always wins." The constant scrutiny made it difficult to separate public perception from personal reality, fueling self-doubt and anxiety. Hitting an emotional wall. Weeks after the finale aired, the contestant reached a breaking point. He began experiencing panic attacks and found it difficult to concentrate. Memories from the island replayed in his mind without warning, particularly moments of betrayal and confrontation. "I felt like my body was still in the game," he said, "always tense, always alert." He attempted to ignore his difficulties at first, reminding himself that many people would give anything to be on Survivor, but minimizing his emotions only made them worse. "I realized pain doesn't disappear just because you think it shouldn't exist," he said. The decision to seek therapy. Encouraged by a trusted friend and a former castmate, he made the decision to seek professional help. Walking into his first therapy session was intimidating, but it quickly became a turning point. He stated, "For the first time, I was permitted to talk without strategy. There was no game to win." Through therapy, he began unpacking the psychological toll of constant vigilance, public judgment, and sudden identity loss. He learned that his reactions were not signs of weakness, but natural responses to an intense and unnatural environment. "It helped me understand that what I went through was real, even if it happened on television," he explained. Understanding reality TV trauma. Mental health professionals note that reality competition shows can create conditions similar to high-stress workplaces or extreme survival scenarios. While being aware that their actions will be judged by millions, contestants are deprived, isolated, and subjected to constant evaluation. The contestant said therapy helped him regulate his nervous system and develop coping strategies to manage anxiety. It also allowed him to forgive himself for decisions made under pressure. "I had to learn to separate the game from my values," he said. "They aren't the same thing." A growing conversation among alumni. More and more Survivor contestants have openly discussed their post-season struggles with mental health in recent years. Stories of depression, anxiety, and difficulty reintegrating into everyday life have been shared by former players. The contestant believes these conversations are essential. "We prepare contestants for starvation and challenges. However, we do not prepare them for the consequences," he said. He hopes that networks will continue expanding post-show support, such as access to resources for mental health care and counseling long after filming is over. Getting back to equilibrium. Today, he describes himself as healthier and more grounded. Therapy has helped him rebuild confidence and rediscover interests unrelated to competition or strategy. He's also become more intentional about how he engages with the Survivor fandom. "He had to set boundaries," he said. "Not every opinion deserves my attention." While the experience changed him, he doesn't regret playing. Instead, he views it as a chapter, one that required reflection and healing to fully understand. "Survivor pushed me to my limits," he said, "but therapy helped me come back from them." A message to fans and future players. By sharing his story, the former castaway hopes to normalize conversations around mental health, especially in high-pressure environments. He wants fans to remember that contestants are more than the characters they see on screen. "People forget there is a real person behind every edit," he stated. To future players, his advice is simple but powerful. Prepare your mind as much as your body, and don't be afraid to ask for help when the game ends. "Winning isn't everything," he said. "Taking care of yourself is." As Survivor continues to evolve, stories like his serve as a reminder that the true impact of the game often lingers long after the final tribal council, long after the torches go out and the island fades from view.